But someday, actually, I want to pick the story of one of the so-called Turkestan generals and, in a way, use a biography of that individual to talk about just how Russia ended up, almost accidentally, the largest country in the world. So that was the area where, I intellectually knew it had happened, but it was when I was starting to dig into the little stories, including, do I have time to give my one favorite little factoid or moment?
Do it. This is your day.
It's the story of Prince Bogdoy. So you have, again, right at the end of the sort of the Far Eastern expansion, a Cossack party of a couple of hundred, thugs and adventurers rolling into this relatively prosperous part of the sort of territories in the Far East. And the local tribe, they do the usual thing, which is basically, kick down some doors, burn some houses, terrify, and say, okay, you are now subjects of the Great White Tsar. So you're going to be paying tribute to us. And also, who do you currently pay tribute to? And they said, Prince Bogdoy. And they said, well, you better let him know that he too is going to be a subject of the Great White Tsar. And if he doesn't, we're going to send a regiment of troops to teach him what's what. At the time, no one, out in the boonies had any idea that Prince Bogdoy was one of the numerous titles of the Chinese emperor. And therefore, they had inadvertently not only told the Chinese emperor that he should regard himself as now being a subject of the Russian Tsar, but they were threatening a whole regiment of troops to conquer one of the biggest land empires in the world. And, a war starts, and at first the Russians, they have the advantage of firepower and riverine power, shall we say, in terms of their larger boats. But, in due course, the simple size of the Chinese empire and its capacity to learn, for example, copying their firearms and so forth, soon begins to tell. But of course, this is at the far end of the empire in an age before railways, certainly before the telegraph. So it takes a long time for information to go to the capital and then come back. And clearly, by the time it got to the capital and someone sort of looked at this and thought, oh my God, what is going on?
We found China.
Yeah, exactly. We did declare war on China. And so obviously it took equally a long time for the word to go back to this distant sort of governorship, at which point clearly there was, it's very sorry about this. There was a retreat from fighting and the start of negotiations, which essentially gave China back the territory it had already claimed. But again, it was a really interesting case in point of the degree to which history is often made just by the guys on the ground, not by grand policy. Because, of course, there were people in the distant capital who knew perfectly well all the however many hundred or thousand or whatever names of the Chinese emperor and, had clear ideas that you do not want to be starting a war with them. But just some Cossack up there on the ground, it just seems Prince Bogdoy, he's probably just another petty local chieftain. So let's give him the bad word.